Hey, hi, this is Scott Thompson from Willow Creek Studio in Willow, Alaska. So just to introduce myself quick, my wife Joan and I own Willow Creek Studio on the highway in Willow, Alaska, just south of Denali National Park, and got a bunch of artists in there, and I do chainsaw carving and wood carving and CNC work there. And then we also own Scott Art CNC, which is where I do most of my CNC and model building business from that platform. So if you run into a Scott Art CNC or Willow Creek or Scott Thompson on some of the forums, they're really kind of all the same person. But I have so much time invested in Willow Creek, and I have a big following there, so I post a lot of times from there because that's where my business comes from. So appreciate that. But today I'm going to do a modeling gig, a little lesson, a little bit different. I'm going to do some goldfish because you guys know I love fish if you follow very much. So I'm going to do goldfish because it has lots of texture, and I'll show you what that's going to look like. But I'm going to do something a little bit different. If you go to Scott Art CNC at the end of this and send me a note with your email in it, I will, during the month of March, I will send you the image I used and all the vectors and some instructions on how to follow along with what we're going to do today. So if you want to try it, you can have the exact same image and follow through. And there's some really basic information there. So yeah, get a chance, go scroll through, stop in and see some of the pieces I've done. There's a guppy one there, I think. We're going to use this goldfish today a little bit, but I'm going to model an entirely new one. So I've got about 200 and some models in there today, and I think we have somewhere around 2,500 models. So it'll take me another year or so to get them all loaded. But let me go over to Aspire. I'll go share that page here and see if I can get Aspire to come online here with us. There it is. Okay, you should be able to see that now. So what's in front of you is, move this, and I'll try this down here. This is what we're going to try model today, a little bit of this goldfish right here, and then some of the leaves and grass that go in there. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do with you today is I usually show you the finished product, and then I dismantle it, and I'll go backwards as to how I build it. But if you do get a hold of me on the Etsy store, this is what you're basically going to get, is some basic instructions and the steps that I take to do that. You'll get these vectors, so you can either recreate the vectors or use my vectors to build the fish the same way I did it. So, but let me go back. I'm going to go into modeling, and I'm going to turn this all off right now. I'm going to go into I'm going to turn off all of that. So we're going to start basically at square one, and I'm going to walk you through how I do this. I think I am. We'll see. I think this is my third try to do this today, so we'll see if I can get it to work better. So what I have done already is I bitmap traced out this goldfish image that I pulled off the internet. And the very first thing I do when I'm doing bitmap tracing is I pull an image in, I click on it, I right click on it, I go down here to object properties, and I play with, I fade that. And you'll find that when you open them up, it starts somewhere in the middle. And when you look at that, it's hard to see the details that you want to trace around in almost any image. So it starts, I go to object properties and set it to whatever level allows you to see what you want to see. And you can see there's some very soft areas around the edges of this fish, which is why I generally can't use, what Aspire has a pretty good tool over here for bitmap tracing, but it just doesn't work on a lot of images well, or you end up playing more with the nodes after you do it. So I just manually trace most of the things I do. So once you have it traced, that's step one. Step two is I click on that, and I'll go up. If you follow my video, you know what I'm about to do. I'll create component from visible model. And you can see what it does is it creates a pretty flat model, but it does have a lot of the detail and stuff in it. So what I'll do with that, once I have that, is I'll take that vector I have and I'll trim it. And you can see all this part out here is what I don't really want. So I'm gonna delete that part. And I'm going to keep the fish part, and I'm going to rename that skin. And that is something that we're going to use later on the surface of the model to create, and we'll play with that in quite a bit in a little while. But for right now, I'm going to turn it off and go back to this vector we have. So the vector, like I told you before, we're going to get in node editing, and I'll walk through really quick how I set up the different vectors to do this goldfish. But you can see every one of these represents a click. I mean, click, 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 and went all the way around to capture the different little subtle shapes that occur in this fish. So in order, now what I need is different vectors. If I just took this and I said, went into modeling and said, well, make over here, let's say, just apply and make a model of this fish. Even if I add a lot of height in here, you can see it just doesn't get you where you want to go on what the fish would look like. So I don't want to do that. I recognize that parts of this fish are flat and parts of them have a lot of depth to them. So we're going to break this fish into pieces based kind of on that basic, where the depth is and where there's not depth. So in order to do that, we'll get out of, we'll go back into, sorry. Hopefully if I ever drive a car the same way I click on stuff, I'll stop driving. But we're back in drawing mode. We're going to get into node editing. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use that, what I would call the main vector that I drew around him. And I'm going to break it into pieces and recreate pieces just for the fin. So I'm going to start out by using I'm going to click on that little node stretch right there, that part of the vector. I hit D and that deletes it. If you use delete, it takes everything out. So I've now deleted both ends of the dorsal fin. I can click on it again, come down here to join or close vectors with a smooth curve, and it does just exactly that. It basically, so most of this fin will be underneath the fish, his body. So I'm pretty darn happy just to leave that the way it is. And then I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to reconnect the body vectors. I'm going to use this thing again in a smooth curve. I'm going to reconnect it. And I have to play with some, you can see when you do that, it didn't end up right on the body line anymore. So I'm going to play with that just a little bit to get it back where I want it on the body line. I might actually add a note in there and bring that up a bit. And we'll call that good. So I now have the dorsal fin has separated it out. We're now going to do that with the rest of the fin. So a couple things going on here. This big tail fin has a little piece of it that goes off into the distance. That's in behind the main, this big triangular fin here. And there's also a butt fin right down here that goes underneath it. So I'm going to try to separate those three fins out. I'm going to do it by inserting another, deleting there. And now I can capture this one because I'm going to set it at a different depth. Same process. I'll just use that. Then I'll reconnect my big fin, the tail fin. I'm going to have to draw some, so that you can see that kind of took just a couple clicks to get that. Now I have most of that fin is corrected there. Now over here, this underfin down here, this line is way off. So I'm going to back in the node mode. I'm going to delete that little right there. And I'm going to delete us from the body again. So I'd have to insert a couple of nodes there. And I'm going to hit delete right there. So now I'm going to ask these two to reconnect each other. And you can see it comes pretty close to what I want, but not quite. This is where it helps on how you set up the picture so you can see, and some familiarity with fish. Some of you guys like me that have been fishing your whole life, you'll go, oh yeah, that's not how that curves right there. Especially if it's some kind of fish that you've cleaned a few times. I'm not saying I've cleaned goldfish, but you get the general body shape. So now we have nice shape for that, but we have disconnected our body. So I'm going to put a little vector there and delete that. And I'm going to reconnect the two body elements here, those parts of the vector. And that's not kind of what we want going on there. You can see it kind of curves around like this, and then goes in here. So we're going to use, we're going to insert some vectors here and along the way. And that's sort of the shape I want to get for the body right there. I don't like that. I don't like real sharp corners like that. That'll haunt me later. So I'll round that a little bit. So now we have that body's come around and we come down to a bottom fin. So let's do the same process down here. Delete. Delete. We'll let's shape this fin. Now, if you look here, this fin actually has a little bit more to it. This is where the quality of the photo matters. You guys know that those side fins like that attach down in there's almost like a sticky where it attaches on. So I'll do that, and then I'll reconnect the body in one piece and see how that works. And again, the nodes just need a little help here. So the body's underneath the fin, so we're not too worried about that. But there we have the body. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We didn't get the 5th fin, so we got to do this one. I'm going to just hit the yes button on that. It's underneath the other fin, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with it. It's going to be underneath everything. So that's all we're going to do on that. And there's our 5 fins are ready to go. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to draw in I'm going to use the freehand drawing tool and the tab button. So I'm going to just click on that, and I'm going to go and draw that in. Hit tab and it connects it. And then I want to do, I'm going to take this body head here. I'm going to take this and I'm going to hit copy, paste. And I'm going to move one of these just out of the way for right now. So I've created 2 bodies. The reason I'm doing that is I'm going to destroy that shape in order to create a head. Because just the way modeling works on the when we combine everything for the model, I like to be able to raise the head up a little bit, and it's hard to do it if you just make it as part of the body. So I spent a little bit of time down here capturing some of the more gill plates. There's going to be a seam line right there. So we'll leave that. When I created these vectors, I intentionally missed this little node that occurs on the fish's nose. I just think it's distracting from the art, and it makes the modeling look a little goofy. So I'm going to cut it off in the model. So now I'm going to take the rest of that leftover body. I'm going to delete it because I don't want it. I'm going to take this one. Don't try to move them when they're in node edit mode, because that's a surefire way to. And I have my snap on, so it should just snap right. There you go. Snaps right into place when you do it. So now we have the body, all the fins. I have a model for the head, and I'm gonna just quick draw in a couple other I'm gonna do some gill plates. It's gonna disappear under the back of that one. I want one right here. Like that. There is shape right here. I want to try capture a little bit. And believe it or not, they have fish lips. Just put these in here. We might or might use those. Carefully draw around the eye. Hit tab and it closes. And I'll do one more here. And that didn't go well. So see how I hit the close button too soon. I was, we'll go like that. Okay, so now we have everything to start building the model. So really quick, I usually start with the feature that's the furthest away. So these fins that are in the back and the dorsal fin are what I'm going to start with first, because I want to layer them underneath the rest of the fish. So we'll go back to modeling. I'm going to say create a shape. I know I want a bit of a base because I want to make sure that it doesn't just disappear in the wood. I don't want it curved like that, so I'm going to come down to where it has a very minimal curve. I certainly don't want an inch of height, so I'm going to come down to under a tenth. I want a little bit of height though, so it has some bit of roundness to it. So there is, I'm going to just call that dorsal. And I'm going to hit start a new one. And I'm going to come back to this little sub fin back here that I want in the back. I'm going to hit apply. And I'm going to make that one, I'm going to actually make that one pretty tall like that. And we'll call that fin 1, because I don't really have a name for it. Start a new one. We'll capture this fin down here because it's also in the back. And we'll make it a little shorter as far as the model height goes. Start a new one. You can do the body first if you want to do this. And I'll show you what. So if I do the body now, instead of 0.12 on a base, I'm going to go a little higher on the body to 0.2 about. And I want the body's going to be pretty chubby. And I want the body to be, I use this down here this is what I call stacking. If you follow my classes and stuff, when you're stacking pieces, you're going to spend a lot of time down here playing with stacking. So I'll put this in this order, and it needs to be a lot chubbier. And you can see how, because it has a higher base, these fins are now falling in behind it. So we'll just call that body for now. Start a new one. We'll get this tail in here. Apply. Now it's going to come out fat because I didn't change the height of this. That's why I try to create it mostly at the same time. And I don't want it I don't want it covering up the nice lines that I created right here. But I do want it to be out in front of these fins by a bit. So I'm going to add up close to that. And I'm also going to add a little bit more shape to it. It'll become apparent later when we Y. And then I'm going to provide it. I'm going to use this tilt button right here. I'm going to hit set tilt, and I'm going to click right here. And I'm going to click right here. And you can see tilt is set for 10 degrees. And it tilted that tail. That's probably more than I want to have it tilted. So I'm going to come in here and say, I'll just tilt it to 6 degrees. And and we'll call that tail. We'll start a new one. You have that fin. So we're going to create this, apply. Now this fin, there's actually 2 of these. One's behind the other one. I'm not going to, the photo doesn't actually show one like that. So this fin is always on the outside of the body. And you can see that little where we spent some time drawing down here in the vectors. I want that to show up and come onto the surface. And you can see it just is above the surface if I use a base of 5.4. So I'll drop that down a bit, and you play with this. This is all part of using the stacking tool. And we'll call that good. And then that particular fin, there's a couple things you can do with it. Let's delete that. Let's start over again with that and hit the modeling. But instead of having it have a positive curve, we're going to put a negative curve in it. We do have to have it merge. So this case, and I don't need it to curve that much, but in this one, I want that fin to be a little bit cupped so that it appears a little cupped. And it doesn't take much to make that illusion occur. So we'll just leave it like that. And then again, I'm going to add a little bit of tilt to that one You hit the tilt button, you hit set, and I want it to tilt back this way just a little bit. Set at 6 degrees. And you can come back and look at it and see that that looks pretty good like that. So we'll leave that one, and we'll call that B fin, bottom fin. I name these all because as you go through modeling and you find something you want to change, you end up heavily coming back and going, man, I wish which one of those components is that one. So now I want to show you why I play with the head. You can see because of the nature of the way the modeling of that body works, this head comes down to almost nothing right here. So the knit lips and those won't quite be what I want them to be. So I'm going to go to that vector we created of the head. I'm going to hit apply. And you can see right now, I had it set for negative. Now this is where it's a little bit helpful to have this second image. So whenever I do these, I think I told you guys earlier in the video that I keep two images here. One of them gets covered up and it's kind of hard to see. And there's ways to show it. I can't show you how to do it today because I'd get lost in the help desk at Vectric's. But to get a better look at that, it's helpful to have the other model sitting there. So what do we do? I must have unclicked on that vector. I did unclick on that vector. So let's go back to that where I was, and we'll get that to pop up. And there's the head. We wanted to do merging. And you can see I want the back gill lines to show up. So this is where I'm going to play with some of the stacking height. So I'm going to shorten that a little bit to where the lip area is about at the height that I like. So somewhere right in, maybe about, that's twice what that is. I'm going to give it a little bit more lift, a little bit more height in the model. And then again, I'm also going to tilt it, set, and I'm going to come in here and go, and want it to peak somewhere back in here. So that gives us the head more in keeping with, and you can see there's some problems up here with modeling as far as it sticks out too much. I'm going to show you how to fix that in a minute, but I kind of like where that head's going. So at this point, I'm going to name that head. So at this point, I click on my levels. I say insert a new level because I basically have the major components of this fish built. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to use, there's two ways of making that into one solid model. One is you can bake it. If you bake it, every one of these components disappears and you can't separate them out again. So this is a new tool a couple of episodes ago that Aspire put in here was to create a component from the visible model. It's the most useful tool. Well, no, there's a couple really good ones, but this one, I love it. So I click on that and it creates a repeat of the model using all these components. Now I turn them off and now I have that and I can essentially experiment with it now without destroying any of the base layer work that I already created. So in this case, I'm going to, for a minute, I'm going to take you guys up into the sculpting tool. I'm going to show you real quick. We're going to take a quick journey on where we're going to end, where we're going with this. So I pulled up the skin, Goldfish 2 skin. I'm going to turn it on for a minute. And you can kind of see where we're going with this. We're adding shape underneath. And so we just, and you can see how it all, that goldfish skin lays on top of it. It's going to be really cool when it's done. But let's turn that off. You can actually leave it on if you wanted to, but, and I'm going to take this, I'm going to call this, I'm going to rename it to base. And I'm going to click on it. I'm going to come up to the sculpting tool, sculpting. And I'm going to use that right here to try to solve a little bit of this. I'm going to use smoothing just to take some of that out. You can do a little bit of other smoothing. I'll do a few things here. We'll come back and really work on that later. But I think that's kind of where I wanted to go with the head. So you can see we added some mass to the head. It makes me feel better about it. And now we can go back. Okay. And we're going to finish adding some texture on top of the face. We're going to start with, I'm going to actually, let's put on some gill plates for this under modeling again. I want them to be almost, I want them to be on top. So we're going to use add to previous model. I want them to be almost of no height, like that. And then I'll probably play with tilt a little bit on these because I want them to have a little bit. You can see how much they're raising, and that's again it defaulted to 10 for right now, which I think is too much. Okay. And I'll just call that G1 for gill plate 1, and then I'm gonna add one down here. All the settings, make that a little more defined. Start another one. I didn't name that one for those of you who are following. I didn't. That's going to be the cavity that forms around the eye. So I want it to actually stick out a little bit. Start a new one. We'll try to do both these lips at the same time. I'll just hit apply and we'll see how they show up. A little bit more height on those. Start new. Now you can see they're overlapping here a little bit, and I'm not worried about that because I'm going to model that back out of this in a couple of minutes. It's going to take one stroke with the modeling sculpting tool to get rid of that. And we might even close. So at this, I have the base tool. So I played around with the base a little bit. I'm actually going to use the, I don't care if I pull those ones back apart again. So I'm going to bake those. And now I'm going to go to the modeling tool. And I'm going to smooth this stuff out. There. And I'm going to set this for not very smooth. I'm going to use the remove, and I'm going to just put in a little bit of a crease right here. I didn't intentionally put the eyes in yet, and the reason I didn't is because we want the lines around the eyes to be very crisp. And normally when I'm doing this model, I'd have that other picture of the goldfish right here on this area of the screen so I can see in detail. But I'll show you what we're going to do that in detail in just another minute or so. So let's add in the eyes really quick. So we do want that on top. I'm going to shorten that up a bit. This is the artsy part. Some of this gets a little bit personal opinion. You just have to get used to trusting your judgment. And I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to actually make that black part of the eye a recess in. That's far and away too deep, but we'll soften that a bit. So there is what we have right now is the base. I'm going to bake those again because I don't see myself changing those particular elements. So that now, and we can lay, you'll notice if I put the skin on, should be, I put it up on top, but there's where we're at on the skin. So we come back over here and now we look at our little fish buddy. And one of the things that's missing that I want to play with before we go any further. I like how a lot of the detail works, but see this big old chubby belly he has right here? We need to go back and fix that, and I do on the original one. So in order to do that, I'm going to go back to this model, come back over here. I'm going to turn this off so I can see that again, and we're going to go back into drawing and create one more vector. And we're going to come up here and draw this vector down here. And man, we didn't add this side fin on here yet either. So we'll go through those both really quick. We'll go back into modeling and turn that on so you can see what we're going to do. And we're going to, first we'll do this belly. And he's going to be very handsome. But I'm going to, instead of stacking him on top, I'm going to make him sort of come out. And I am going to tilt it a little bit because I've come out. I don't want this to come out too far down here. So instead of, but it's not coming out up to catch this lobe up here that's apparent in the fish. So I'm gonna use tilt to fix that. I'm gonna click here and I'm gonna click there, and you'll see it tilted out and came out like this. Now again, 10% is too much. I'll lower that back down until it softens it and gets in there. I think 7. We'll try 6. I like it. We'll call that belly. And we're going to start one more new component. Now I'm going to lay that fin right on top of here. So before I lay the fin on there, I'm going to take this base layer and the belly, and I'm going to use bake, and I'm going to bake them again because I want to, there's going to be some modeling that goes on here, and I didn't want to, just using the smooth to blend that in a little better and along the bottom. And I'll show you one of the wonderful things you can do. So then this fin right here, we're going to create this fin, and we're going to hit apply. That's more fin than we wanted. So we're going to shorten that all up. I'm also going to tilt that fin just a little bit using the same tilt function. And we'll call that good. Fin, side fin. There you go. So now what's interesting, if let's say, if I had done that, and I told you I wanted to come in here and work on this belly modeling, but I didn't want to do it because that fin was right there. The truth is, as long as they're separate like this over here, I can go back in. Let me just shorten that name up because I baked it so many times now. But I can go back into this and hit modeling, and I can go in here with this, with any of the tools, and because that little side fin isn't part of the model yet, I can model all the way around it and it won't hurt it at all. And I'll just hit OK. And then what we'll do is we'll combine those two. I'm going to hit bake again. But now let's say I want to play with some texture around here and I turn the skin on. The same rule applies here, is that if I click on the base, the body, and I hit sculpting, I can go in here now and play around with the sculpting tool. Let's say I wanted to add some more right here because there wasn't enough, and I'll turn the strength way up and exaggerate it so you can see how stupid it gets. You can add in here, and I can play with the fins here, And anyway, you can do it underneath, and it doesn't play. I can make this row of skin, but it doesn't affect the skin, but it affected the model. So, and then I can either use the undo brush and undo everything, which is another great invention, or I can just back out of here and I can say discard and throw all those things away. But you can use, especially on models like this, it's really helpful when there's, if you, let's say you want to play with these textures here back on the fin a bit more. So I would quite often, I'll come back in here, and I love the fact that and again, we're modeling on the fin, not this on the body. We're not, we're not playing with the skin. You can come back here and use those same lines. Same over here. And I'm not really, I don't affect the skin portion of the model at all. I'm just affecting what's underlying it. So for, in this case on the tail, I'd really like to have the tail have more, a more dynamic shape. So I'm going to come in here with the strength here, pretty soft, and I'm going to make the top part of that have some. And you can do the same with the dorsal if you wanted to. You can add a little bit of texture there, and maybe we'll remove a little bit, make it very smooth, and just take a little bit out right in here, and try to create that a tail that's more fluid. And let's just say okay and save. So what I did, well, all those changes occurred in the underlying model. And if I remove the skin again, you can see where we did those underlying model changes. So finally, I will insert one more layer, and I'll combine those to create one piece, and I'll call him, I'll rename him Goldfish 3. And he's there. So then I did that I would call pretty much done at this point. I'll still go back in. I don't like some of the sharp edges on these. Some of you guys like to use a create a visible component with draft to remove some of the real heavy sharp edges here. And in some cases, that, like on this tall fin, that wouldn't carve really well. So if I just say, we'll make it a draft and make it, well, 40 is too much, but let's say 15, apply. Now it makes a completely new model. So you're going to see two models stacked on top of each other when it gets done doing this. So there is the model. I'm going to turn that one off. And now you can see the model where that those sharp steep edges are a little bit gone. And it looks great. It's easier for carving, and you get a nicer, cleaner carve. So I'll use draft a lot of times to finish these up. So I'll go back to that one. And there you can see it drop off. But let's just use the draft one for right now. So then I'll go back into my layers back here. I'll turn all these layers back on. So we have the rest of these vectors here I was going to use. I also have my other little goldfish down here I was going to use. Let's bring this guy back up here. There, I have two goldfish now. And I was going to put some grass and weeds around it. I'll show you really quick. I just manually drew some vectors in here to do that. And all again, is just your stacking visual models. So we're going to take that and we're going to say make a, let's see what comes of that. So there's this one, because I was playing with it before, had tilt in it, and I don't really want the tilt. So I'm going to set it to where it urges below. So there's my one of the weeds down below. We'll make another one here, apply. We'll give that one a little bit more shape, a little bit more height. Now I'm a cheater, so instead of I'm going to take that same, and I'm going to say copy, paste, and then I'm going to hit the 9 button. 9, 9, 9, 9. And now I have rotated that one, and I'll tilt a little bit this way. And maybe I'll make it a little bit fatter than the other ones. Yeah, that's too much. But it's different. Make it a little taller. And I'm going to go into that, and I'm going to apply a tilt set, and I'll tilt it from here to here, add in a couple degrees. And that makes it go in front of one goldfish and behind the other one. Kind of like that. And if it makes the model too high, then go back in here, and I'm going to use fade, and I'm going to tell it to fade it from right here to here. Set the fade. Oop. Sorry, I ended up turning off the tilt that I had in there. And you can see the fade can be used to turn that back down. So basically that's modeling a goldfish. There's some other things I can do to change the shape of that. I have some other vectors I have over here that I would use to make that those weeds and stuff curve more, which I kind of set a time limit on this today. So anyway, that's modeling goldfish. So if you are interested in trying to follow along with this and build your own, I will post get this on loaded up on YouTube this evening, and then if you send me a message at back at I'm gonna hit save on that before, so we have this very copy of it. But I'd send you all these vectors, and you can play with building your own model, and send me questions at Scott Art on Scott Art CNC on Etsy, and look forward to hearing from you. But have fun. Thanks for watching.